Welcome everybody to this weekly CSIG call that typically happens on Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. US Eastern. I'm going to hand over to Yassi Mugadam, who's going to introduce theories and the related activities. Over to you, Yassi.
Thank you, Susan. Good morning, everyone. I'm Yassi Mogadam. I'm the Executive Director of the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals, ISIP. Our mission is to ensure technology serves people and life through service innovation and value co-creation. The CSIG is one of the important activities and communities that we promote because it really very well fits our mission. I invite all of you to check out isip.org. Some of you are already members of ISIP, but you're all welcome to join. There are other related activities. So thank you so much, and I turn it over to Anna.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Anna Echeverri, and I work with IBM. I lead a team that's focused on, really our mission is to increase skills in the market on data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Today, I'm here to talk about one of our newest offerings, which is, we're calling it the AI Enterprise Workflow Certification. And before I start going through the slides, and by the way, we're having some technical issues, so Susan is going to be helping me move the slides. I want to give a little bit of a high-level information on this certification because this is a very targeted certification, and it focuses on experienced data scientists, experienced machine learning practitioners that want to elevate their skills and that want to ensure that they have a very solid mastery of what it takes to build AI solutions in the enterprise. So sort of going from the sandbox experience into building solutions in the enterprise, which go all the way from connecting business priorities to technical implementations. We are looking at connecting open source, Python, with some IBM technologies. And we're also looking at building that connection between machine learning and other specialized artificial intelligence model building. So, Susan, if we can go to the next slide. So although this presentation, it's about the certification itself, I always like to have a conversation trying to ground some elements around AI skills. So before I talk to the certification, let's just spend a couple of minutes talking about artificial intelligence skills. Next slide, Susan. So if you've ever seen our CEO, Ginny Rometty, it's quite interesting because I've seen her speak or heard her speak in some of the most relevant conferences. And the topic really usually ends up going into the topic of, if we are moving into a world of pervasive AI, are we prepared from the skills perspective? And, she was here talking about building the workforce of the future in New York and stating AI is probably going to change 100% of jobs within the next 5 to 10 years. At Davos, she was talking about how organizations need to probably take a look and change the way they hire and the way they address their skills gaps. And really the bottom line is everyone within the next few years is going to be impacted by AI. Business people need to embrace AI and need to figure it out and understand what are the actual capabilities of AI so that they can connect the dots and bring it into connecting those technology capabilities with business priorities and how those technology capabilities can help solve business challenges. Technical people will also, from different angles, be impacted by moving to a world of pervasive AI. So we have, data scientists that already are being, experts on how to work with data and how to build machine learning models. But we also have people that have been in, let's say, more traditional technical roles, database administrators and architects and developers, all having to refresh their skills for the world of AI. Next slide, Susan. So what we see in the market is that the need for AI skills is very critical. Studies that we've seen cite that most executives are looking at the lack of skills in their organizations as being the number one barrier to adopting AI. So even though we all look at AI as this tremendous opportunity, probably one of the most significant opportunities in the market in our lifetimes, there's truly not enough people that are able to fully leverage these technologies. And we see a tremendous amount of job creation and really not enough people to fully fill those jobs. So AI skills and digital skills, this technical sort of newer waves of skills are critical for any organization and for individuals that want to keep their career, at the top of the market needs. Next slide. So I always like to think of AI skills not as an isolated domain. When we look at our organizations and sort of from the technical perspective, where the skills are, I really think of this as a continuum. So we've got our data and information architecture skills, data management, data governance, data integration. We have our basic analytics, things like business intelligence. Then we move on that scale of skills to the science of data and really knowing how to work with data and how to work in a probabilistic world while building machine learning models. And then we get to artificial intelligence. So it's not an isolated domain, and I tend to have conversations with a lot of people that are aspiring to be in the field of artificial intelligence. And I always try to recommend that they don't look at AI as a completely separate domain where you can just go and start learning there, because you really need a very solid understanding of all the skills that are needed to actually bring AI to life. And these skills are critical, and they're very significant and very important as we move as we move to a world where AI is going to be embedded in most of the technology solutions. Next slide. One thing that I always like to clarify is that when you move to the world of data science, machine learning, AI, this is not about learning a new product. So I think we've been used throughout the years to new things that come to market, and pretty much you can go in and learn a new product and become proficient in that new thing. When it comes to AI, really, probably the product is the least of your concerns, because there's multiple ways to go and build solutions, but there's need to have that very solid understanding of the foundational elements that will make you successful doing implementations in this world. So this is always something that I like to stress, because there's so, at least from my perspective and from my own experience, I see so many more people wanting to go into the worlds of data science, machine learning, and AI than actual people in those fields. So I want to highlight this, that it's not about going in and learning a new product. You really need to start with the foundational elements of what it means to work in these fields, where we see really machine learning being most of the AI that's built today, with deep learning being a subset of that and encompassing the overall field of artificial intelligence, bringing together machine learning and other specialized capabilities that try to mimic how we humans interact with the world. Next slide. So, because I'm talking about all these skills that are necessary to succeed in the world of artificial intelligence, I thought it was a good opportunity to let's just drill down and explain what this means. So when I'm saying there is a whole set of new skills that need to be developed to be successful in the world of AI, and especially as it relates to the certification, in the role of being a data scientist implementing AI solutions. So this is probably not new if we have data scientists in the audience, but I find that when I talk to people that are, let's say, adjacent to the data science world, that are not data scientists themselves, they get really surprised sometimes and shocked at all the pieces of knowledge that are required to become proficient. So, and this connects really well with what I just said, which is, this is not about learning a new product. So there's a lot of foundational skills that need to be developed, starting with the mathematical foundation. So probability, statistics, especially inferential statistics, which is the piece of statistics that most of us, even if we took statistics at some time in our lives, don't remember. Some components of linear algebra, especially as it focuses on vectors and matrices. It's important to be able to either use a tool that allows you to implement these algorithms, or to be a programmer. What we see in the world is that most of the actual machine learning model building is done in R and Python, with Python somehow becoming that de facto standard tool to be used to build models in this space. You need to understand what are the methodologies that are required to build data science, to implement data science and machine learning and AI solutions. Knowledge of how to prepare data, because unfortunately, data is always dirty and it's always full of inconsistencies. And you cannot just take a data set and give it to an algorithm and expect magic. So there's a lot of data preparation work that goes into getting the data ready for training your models. Then we look at building models. From the machine learning perspective, these algorithms tend to be classified into these categories of supervised, unsupervised, deep learning, and reinforcement learning. And we're not going to go into details here, but if you're new to this world, these are terms that you will typically hear, because that's how machine learning algorithms are categorized. But we also have pre-built models that help us with that simulation of how we interact with the world, things like visual recognition, like speech recognition, being able to analyze text, inference of tone, empathy, looking at how text may give us some information or insight into an individual's personality or frame of mind. Being able to deploy these models and manage models in production, which is a whole, new challenge in itself. And, we find a lot of big data in our clients. So we feel that the knowledge of Spark, for example, in some cases Hadoop, is also very relevant. So when you're looking at, I want to become someone that's an expert in the field of AI, or I want to be a very proficient data scientist, those are the skills that are relevant to have. So you either need to refresh some of them and acquire new ones. Next slide. So because this topic tends to come up a lot, I wanted to do a little bit of clarification on what is a certification. Because I've seen that most people tend to use the term badge, certificate, or certification as something that's interchangeable. So I wanted to explain a little bit what is a certification. So basically, if you think of a badge, it's usually something that indicates that you've taken a course. So you've completed a certain learning path, now you have a badge. They don't require necessarily an exam or a test or validation of whether those skills were in fact acquired, although there may have been some quizzes in order for you to get a badge. Certificates are very similar to badges, but you can think of them as a collection of badges. So a certificate is usually received after completing a certain number of courses or completing a certain number of badges. Where a certification is different is where it goes beyond validating that you took a class, and its goal is to validate that you in fact acquired those skills. And it usually requires a third-party validation. So if I train you on something, it's not going to be me saying that you in fact have that knowledge. It's going to be a third-party organization where there's going to be some sort of proctored test or hands-on work, and they're going to validate that in fact those skills were acquired. Next slide. So before I talked about this continuum of skills, now we're going to start talking about this specific certification, and the focus of this certification is really at the higher end of this continuum of skills. So it focuses on data science, machine learning, and AI. Next slide. The program, as I mentioned at the beginning, the audience is not the aspiring data scientist. It's not someone that's curious about data science, curious about AI. It's individuals that are already, in fact, experienced data scientists, that are machine learning practitioners, that want to elevate their knowledge to really encompass everything that it takes to build an end-to-end AI solution in an enterprise. So what we do is we introduce concepts and advanced concepts through a training that's estimated to be about 40 hours, and it's available on Coursera today. And we use a real-world scenario all throughout the course. We leverage design thinking because we are big believers that the design thinking framework really facilitates this highly needed orchestration between the business side and the technical side of an organization. It's not a design thinking course, not at all, but it's grounded in design thinking. We bring to connect through pipelines, both building machine learning models and using specialized pre-built models focus on this specialized AI functionalities such as facial recognition or natural language processing. And we connect Python and IBM technologies. And what I love about the way that this course or collection of courses was built is that you don't need to be an IBM client. You don't need to know anything about IBM technologies. If you are a Python data scientist, you can fully benefit from this course. There's areas where we say, well, you do this in Python, but sometimes in a large enterprise, it becomes very hard, and you may need some other technology support to facilitate some certain areas in the process. We demonstrate how IBM technologies support that process, but you can literally go through the whole course just leveraging your Python skills as a data scientist. So once you complete the training on Coursera, If you want, you can go and take that official industry certification test. It's delivered by Pearson VUE, and it consists of about 60 questions that validate that you have the skills to implement AI solutions in the enterprise. And that means it validates skills that are built through this training, but it also validates skills that you should have as an experienced data scientist. Next slide. So what are the prerequisites to take the certification? So because we're targeting the experienced data scientist, so you need to have those skills. If you are an aspiring data scientist and you're just kind of trying to learn what data science is, what AI is, this is probably not the course for you, but we do have some other recommendations for the aspiring data scientist. But basically, you need to have an understanding of linear algebra, understanding of probability distributions, probability theory, statistics, both descriptive and inferential, understanding of machine learning techniques, best practices, knowing how to build models in Python, and familiarity with some of the most common libraries used. We recommend you can have some familiarity with IBM Watson Studio, but you don't have to, because again, as I said, you can use IBM Watson Studio, which is our core tool for data scientists and machine learning practitioners, but you don't have to, because most of the course is pure Python. And we introduced some concepts on design thinking, but you don't have to be an expert on design thinking. But this is sort of, if you have this, then this is the right certification for you. Because again, it's not targeting the aspiring data scientist, it's not targeting the very junior data scientist, it's targeting those individuals that have already acquired those skills, but want to elevate their knowledge. Next slide. So this is the overall AI enterprise workflow, and those of you that are data scientists will recognize this, what it takes to build an enterprise solution, starting with the business opportunity. So we're not starting with, this is the technical piece, this is how you do this, is everything needs to be grounded on that business opportunity, because a lot of AI projects fail because there's not that connection. So the project gets started because someone has the skills, so they felt that there's this really cool technology that they want to use. And the reality is, if these projects are not grounded on a business opportunity, they end up being projects that never go anywhere. So we really want to bring that up to the forefront in this training, in this education process, which is everything starts with a business opportunity. And if it doesn't, this project may not really get anywhere. Then of course, next step is finding the right data sources, exploring, visualizing your data, understanding how your data is distributed, what anomalies are there that need to be addressed before the data can be ready for training your models. Then you have to clean your data. You have what we call feature engineering, which is doing transformations on data or selecting which of all the data points that you have are actually going to contribute to your models. Then you're going to train several models, and out of that training of several models, some will be better than others, and then you're going to do a selection of which one works better. That if you're building models from scratch. In other cases, you may be leveraging models that are pre-built. It may be a visual recognition model, for example, or a natural language processing model. So you don't have to build those from scratch, but you still need to train the models. And then you're going to determine what is the model that actually gets deployed in the organization. This doesn't end there, because models don't stay performing forever. So you have to monitor those models, you have to manage them, you have to at some point determine whether those models need to be retrained, you need to measure success, grounded on that initial business opportunity. And this is a cycle that never really ends. So as we walk you through the education process for the certification, this is the enterprise workflow that we're following. Next slide. So as for the training, this is how the training is organized on Coursera. We have 6 main courses. The first one starts with looking at business priorities, how this impacts data ingestion and data collection methodologies. Second course focusing on analyzing that data, doing some basic hypothesis testing as part of that initial analysis before you even go into building models. The next course is completely focused on feature engineering, on selecting what are the actual data points that are going to be used in the training process of your models. And we really focus on bias detection because this is critical to have models into production. Validating bias and mitigating that bias. And we do this through open source library, AI 360, which has a collection of bias detection, bias metrics, and bias mitigation algorithms. The next course focusing on this pipeline of building machine learning models, but also using pre-built models, visual recognition, NLP. Then we go into what it takes to actually deploy these models in the enterprise. And the last course, it's all about managing AI in production and doing a capstone project that brings all of this together. The link to the specialization on Coursera is here. And next slide, Susan. So the next step for those that want the certification, not everyone wants a certification. A lot of people just want the learning. But if you're interested in having that credential, the certification is provided by Pearson. You can find details on the link below. And again, our course doesn't teach you the foundation of becoming a data science because we are targeting an advanced audience. But the test actually validates that you in fact have those skills. So it validates some of the mathematical foundation. It looks at your knowledge on how to use data science and AI in business, data understanding, data preparation, actually techniques to build these models, evaluate models, select which one is the best model to deploy those models, and some understanding about the technology stack required to do so. So that completes my presentation, Susan. I don't know if there's any questions from the audience.
Yes, there are a number of questions. I'll start asking them. One question from Yassi. Which entity designs the certification questions that Pearson tests for? Pearson or the course provider on Coursera?
None. So there's a governance process within IBM where you need to have a separate entity building the questions. Because some people may not want to take the training. They just want to go and take the certification. So it cannot be fully tied to it. So it cannot be the training has concepts A, B, and C, and then you test for concepts A, B, and C. So the way the test is built is through a collection of subject matter experts. So we had subject matter experts at IBM that came together. There is a whole process where they submit questions, the questions get graded by the whole team of subject matter experts. They get validated in terms of having a balance in difficulty. So they cannot be all easy questions, it cannot be all really hard questions. So there needs to be a balance between easy and hard questions. And there's this whole governance process that governs the creation of the certification test.
Thank you. Is the course free?
You can audit it for free, but if you want to, because that's the Coursera model, right? So the Coursera model is you can audit training for free, but if you want to get a confirmation at the end, and if you want access to the quizzes and the projects, then the cost is what Coursera charges. And don't quote me on it. I think it's $80, $79 a month. I'm not quite certain, but it's around those lines. So if you go and take all the education within a month, then that's all you pay. If it takes you longer, then you pay for the months that it'll take you to have it done.
Would you recommend that someone taking a master's but not have practical experience, taking a master's in data science, take this certification?
I absolutely would. So most masters in data science analytics have a capstone project. But I think having the certification, and because you already have the skills as someone that's going through the masters or that finished the masters, I highly recommend it because it really grounds it into the practical application and some of the considerations that when you're going to school, even working through a capstone, you don't have to deal with as you're part of an enterprise.
Thank you so much, Anna. And also there's a suggestion that you might want to discuss synergy with the Mathematical Association, American Mathematical Association, the ACM, the National Council of Teachers of Math, and so on. So are you thinking of any collaborations or discussions with any of these institutions?
So I don't have that on my roadmap. I would love to learn more about it.
Okay.
What we do have, it's a collaboration with universities, and that's probably a whole separate conversation that we need to have, Susan,
yes,
regarding the project where we are building a data science curriculum kit in collaboration with the University of Pennsylvania. And this is going to be launched to the market as an open source project so that academic institutions around the world can pick up materials from there. It can get the whole thing or get modules that are of interest to them, make them their own, and use them to build their data science programs.
Yes.
So we'll know more about this because it's targeted for early 2020, and I think it's worth having a whole conversation around it.
Right. Yes. Thank you so much, Anna, for that suggestion. We'll plan on scheduling a talk around the open source data science curriculum for universities. The other talk that we've already got scheduled, a different certification that we have underway in collaboration with the Open Group. And the speaker, Maureen Norton, was actually on this call, but I think she's dropped. But that's going to happen in December. Do you want to comment on the difference between the certification that you described?
Absolutely. So in the market, there's different types of certifications. Some are skills-based, like this certification that I'm talking about here. Some are more about the profession expertise. So this certification that Susan's mentioning, that there will be another call, was built by the Open Group. IBM was a participant. The Open Group has about 600 companies that are members, and they aim to facilitate that certification that is not skills-based. So no one's going to test you on what you know, but it's about demonstrating that you've, in fact, implemented these solutions in the real world. So you have to submit projects that you've worked on. You have to get leadership badges and mentorship badges. And Maureen will be providing all those details in the call in December that Susan mentioned.
Thank you so much, Anna, for the excellent talk. Thank you very much for the attendees, and please express your thanks to Anna in the chat, and if you found the talk useful. And I'll close the call now and post the recording later today. And thank you again, Anna, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.